Daehyun Park sat in the corner of the dirty bar on Seoul Orbital Station, staring at his half-empty glass. The liquid inside was supposed to be whiskey, but it tasted like engine fuel mixed with regret. He needed money. His cargo ship, the Wandering Star, was falling apart piece by piece, and the last job barely covered the fuel costs. The bar was full of the usual crowd. Traders arguing over prices, miners spending their credits on cheap drinks. A few security guards pretending not to notice the illegal deals happening in the dark corners. Daehyun had been coming here for 3 years, ever since he started running cargo between Earth and the outer colonies. It was never a nice place, but tonight it felt especially miserable. He was about to order another drink when she walked in. She was impossible to miss. Her skin shimmered like pearl under water, changing colors slightly as she moved through the dim light. She was tall and slim, with large eyes that seemed to glow with a soft purple light. Daehyun recognized her species immediately. Veltari? He had seen them before in the trade stations. They were known across the galaxy as smooth talkers and excellent business people. Most spacers said you could trust a Veltari, with your money but never with your secrets. The woman looked around the bar nervously. Her elegant clothes were torn at the shoulder, and there was a small cut on her cheek that leaked silver blood. She spotted Daehyun watching her and walked straight to his table. "Please," she said in perfect Korean, her voice soft and musical. "I need help. They are hunting me." Daehyun raised an eyebrow. "Who's hunting you?" "Bounty hunters. Station security. Maybe worse." She glanced over her shoulder at the bar entrance. "My name is Lyris. I am accused of stealing something very valuable. But I am innocent. I swear it." "That's what everyone says," Daehyun replied. Taking another sip of his terrible drink, Lyris sat down without being invited. Up close, Daehyun could see she was shaking slightly. Fear, he realized. Real fear. "I know how this looks," she said. "A desperate alien asking a human for help. But I will pay you well. Triple your normal rate for a single run." That got his attention. "Triple? To go where?" "Veltar Prime, my homeworld. I have evidence there that proves my innocence. Hidden in my home." She leaned forward, her purple eyes locked on his. "I am a cultural anthropologist. I study other species and preserve their histories. Someone has framed me for stealing a genetic archive from the Galactic corporate vault, they say. I took DNA samples worth millions of credits. Why would anyone frame you?" "Because I know too much." Lyris looked around again, then back at Daehyun. "Please, I chose to ask you specifically. Humans have a reputation for being difficult to predict, stubborn, you do not give up easily." Daehyun laughed bitterly. "Stubborn is right. Stupid might be more accurate." He studied her face, looking for signs of lying. He had learned to read people during his years in space. You had to, or you ended up dead or broke. Lyris seemed genuinely scared, but that could be an act. "How much is triple?" he asked. 90,000 credits. Daehyun nearly choked on his drink. That was enough to fix his ship properly. Maybe even upgrade a few systems. That's a lot of money for an innocent person. "I have savings. My work pays well." Lyris reached into her coat and pulled out a small credit chip. "Here is half now. The rest when we reach Veltar Prime safely." He stared at the chip. 45,000 credits. Right there in front of him. He thought about his ship, about the repairs he desperately needed, about the fact that he had been eating instant noodles for 2 weeks straight because he could not afford real food. "If you're lying," he said slowly, "I will dump you out the airlock." "I am not lying," Lyris said firmly. "I promise you." Daehyun took the credit chip. "Fine, my ship is in Dock 7. We leave in 30 minutes. Bring whatever you need." "Thank you," Lyris said, and the relief in her voice sounded real. "Thank you so much." They left the bar separately. Daehyun went first, walking casually toward the docking section. His mind was racing. This was probably a mistake. A huge mistake. But 90,000 credits could change everything for him. He reached. the Wandering Star, and started the pre-flight checks. The ship was old, a modified cargo hauler with patches on top of patches. But she flew, and she was his. He had bought her with everything he owned 5 years ago, and they had been through a lot together. Lyris arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a small bag. She looked even more nervous now. "We should hurry," she said. Daehyun nodded and sealed the airlock. He climbed into the pilot's seat and started firing up the engines. The station's departure control gave him clearance automatically. Just another cargo ship leaving for the outer systems. They were halfway to the jump point when the CUM system screamed to life. "Cargo ship Wandering Star, this is Sol Station Security. Power down your engines immediately and prepare to be boarded. You are transporting a fugitive wanted for corporate theft and treason." Daehyun's hands froze on the controls. He looked back at Lyris, who had gone very pale. "Treason?" he said. "You did not mention treason." "I did not know," she whispered. "They are adding charges? They want to make sure no one helps me." The CUM crackled again. "Wandering Star, you have 30 seconds to comply or we will open fire." Daehyun's mind raced. He could surrender. Give Lyris back. Claim he did not know she was wanted. Maybe he would only lose his pilot license. Maybe, or he could run. His hands moved before his brain finished deciding. He pushed the throttle to maximum and angled the ship toward the jump point. The Wandering Star groaned and shook, but she responded. "You are insane," Lyris shouted, gripping her seat. "You paid me to get you home," Daehyun shouted back. "So I am getting you home." Warning alarms filled the cockpit. Station security ships were launching behind them. Energy weapons flashed past the view screen. Daehyun threw the ship into a barrel roll, dodging between cargo containers and mining vessels. Other ships scattered, their pilots screaming complaints over the open channels. The jump point was close now. Just a few more seconds. A weapons blast hit the rear shields and sparks exploded from a control panel. Lyris screamed. "Hold on!" Daehyun yelled. He slammed the jump drive activation button. The universe twisted sideways and suddenly they were hurtling through hyperspace. The stars outside became streaks of light. The security ships were gone. They were safe. For now, Daehyun sat back in his chair, his heart pounding like a drum. His hands were shaking. He had just run from station security. He was now a fugitive. A criminal. Everything he had worked for was gone. He looked back at Lyris, who was still gripping her seat with white knuckles. "This evidence better be good," he said quietly. Lyris nodded. "It is, I promise. You did the right thing." Daehyun was not sure about that. Not sure at all. But it was too late now. They were committed. He had just bet everything on the word of an alien woman he met in a bar. He really hoped he had not just made the biggest mistake of his life. The first day in hyperspace was quiet. Too quiet. Daehyun sat in the pilot chair, staring at the swirling colors outside the view screen. Hyperspace always looked strange, like being inside a painting that was constantly moving. It made some people sick. He had gotten used to it years ago. Lyris stayed in the passenger compartment, which was really just a converted cargo bay with a few seats bolted to the floor. Daehyun brought her some food from his limited supplies. Instant noodles and protein bars. She ate without complaining, which surprised him. Most aliens he had met turned their noses up at human food. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything." "Do not thank me yet," Daehyun replied. "We still have a week of travel ahead. A lot can go wrong. You saved my life back there. Those security ships would have killed me. They would have arrested you." Lyris shook her head. "No, the orders were to eliminate me. I heard the security chief talking before I ran. They do not want me to talk. They want me silent forever." Daehyun felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He had thought this was just about theft. Maybe some corporate politics. But murder? That was a different game entirely. "What exactly did you steal?" he asked, the truth this time. Lyris looked at him for a long moment. A genetic archive, DNA samples from hundreds of species across the galaxy, some extinct. Some rare. Some that should not exist anymore. Why would you steal that? I did not steal it, Lyris said firmly. I created it. Over 20 years of work. Collecting samples. Preserving genetic information. It was my life's work. Then why do they say you stole it? Because I discovered something I was not supposed to know. Lyris stood up and walked to the small window in the cargo bay. The Veltari Convergence, my government, has been lying to the galaxy for centuries. We present ourselves as peaceful diplomats and traders, but the truth is much darker. Dae-Hyeon waited. He could tell she was deciding how much to reveal. We have been eliminating species, Lyris finally said. Not with weapons. That would be too obvious. We do it slowly. We make trade agreements that seem fair but actually trap younger species in debt. We introduce technologies that make them dependent on us. We encourage conflicts between species so they fight each other instead of noticing what we are doing. That sounds like conspiracy theory talk, Dae-Hyeon said. I thought so too. Until I found the evidence. Lyris turned to face him. I was studying extinct species for my research. I noticed patterns. Species that had contact with the Veltari disappeared within a few generations, always, every single time. I started investigating. I found classified files. Communication records, plans. Dae-Hyeon felt the cold knot in his stomach grow larger. And they found out you knew. Yes, so they accused me of stealing my own research. They claimed I broke into the corporate vault where my samples were being stored. It was all lies, but who would believe me? I am just one person against the entire convergence. Why tell me all this? Lyris smiled sadly. Because you need to know what we are running from. And because humans are different. Different how? Your species has a reputation across the galaxy. Most species do not talk about it openly, especially not to humans. But we notice things. Lyris sat back down. Humans are stubborn. When everyone else surrenders, humans keep fighting. When a situation seems impossible, humans find a way. You are unpredictable. Dangerous in ways that have nothing to do with weapons or strength. We are just people, Dae-Hyeon said. No, you are survivors. Your planet nearly killed you dozens of times, and you just refused to die. You spread across a deadly world, and then you reached for the stars even though it should have been impossible with your primitive technology. Lyris leaned forward. That is why I chose you. I need someone who will not give up when things get bad. Someone who thinks differently than every other species in the galaxy. Dae-Hyeon did not know what to say to that. He had never thought of humans as special. They were just ... human ... The next few days passed more easily. Lyris turned out to be surprisingly helpful. When a coolant line started leaking, she held the tools while Dae-Hyeon crawled into the narrow maintenance shaft to fix it. When the food recycler broke down, she helped him take it apart and clean the filters. You are good with machines, Dae-Hyeon observed on the third day. I travel a lot for my research, Lyris explained. You learn to fix things when you are alone in space for months at a time. They fell into a routine. Dae-Hyeon would handle the piloting and navigation. Lyris would cook meals, which turned out to be much better than his instant noodles. She knew recipes from dozens of worlds and could make even his basic supplies taste interesting. In the evenings, they would sit in the cockpit and talk, Lyris told him about Veltar Prime, about the crystalline forests that sang in the wind, about cities built into the sides of mountains, about her family who probably thought she was dead by now. Dae-Hyeon told her about Earth, about Seoul, where he grew up, about his parents, who were disappointed when he left to become a cargo pilot instead of a doctor like they wanted, about the endless ocean of stars and how it felt to be truly alone in the void on the fifth day. The navigation system failed. Dae-Hyeon was running a routine check when warning lights flashed across every screen. The ship lurched sideways, throwing him against his harness. Alarm screamed. What is happening? Lyris shouted from the cargo bay. Navigation failure. Dae-Hyeon's hands flew across the controls. We are drifting toward a radiation belt. He pulled up the sensor data. The belt was huge, a cloud of deadly particles left over from an ancient supernova. If they flew into it, the radiation would kill them in minutes and fry every electronic system on the ship. Can you fix it? Lyris asked, climbing into the cockpit. I am trying. Dae-Hyan pulled open the navigation panel. Smoke poured out. The main processor was completely burned out. We need a new processor. We do not have one. How long until we hit the radiation belt? 20 minutes. Maybe less. Lyris went pale. There must be something we can do. Dae-Hyan stared at the dying navigation system. His mind raced. 20 minutes. A burned processor? No replacement parts. This was impossible. Then, again, humans were supposed to be good at impossible. The entertainment system, he said suddenly. What? The passenger entertainment system. It has a processor. Not as powerful as the navigation computer, but maybe... Dae-Hyan was already moving, pulling up deck plans on his tablet. If I can reroute the connections, strip out the unnecessary code, and overclock it past safety limits, That should not work, Lyris said. Probably not, Dae-Hyan agreed. He was already pulling tools from the emergency locker. Help me. We need to dismantle the entertainment console in the cargo bay. They worked frantically. Dae-Hyan ripped out the processor while Lyris held the panel steady. He ran back to the cockpit and started splicing wires with his bare hands, not bothering with proper connections. There was no time. 10 minutes, Lyris said. Watching the sensors, Dae-Hyan's hands were bleeding from stripped wires, but he kept working. He pulled up the navigation code on his tablet and started deleting huge chunks of it. Music libraries, video codecs, gaming subroutines, anything that was not absolutely essential for plotting a course. 5 minutes. He slammed the processor into place and connected the last wire. Come on, he whispered. Work, please work. The navigation screen flickered, died, flickered again, then it came to life. The display was wrong. Numbers flickered and glitched. But it was working, barely. 2 minutes. Dae-Hyan grabbed the manual flight controls and fired the maneuvering thrusters. The ship slowly, painfully slowly, began to turn. The radiation belt loomed ahead, a glowing red cloud of death on the sensors. We are not going to make it, Lyris said quietly. Yes, we are. Dae-Hyan pushed the throttle forward. The wandering star groaned. The makeshift navigation system sparked and smoked, but it held. The radiation belt filled the view screen. Dae-Hyan could see arcs of energy dancing through the cloud. So close, too close, the ship turned. The belt passed to their starboard side, so close that the outer hull temperature spiked into the red zone. But they cleared it. Dae-Hyan let out a breath he did not know he was holding. His hands were shaking. The entire cockpit smelled like burning electronics. That was ... Lyris started. Insane, Dae-Hyan finished. That was insane. Lyris looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. No Veltari pilot would have tried that. It should not have worked, but it did. Yes, it did. Lyris smiled. Maybe the stories about humans are true after all. Dae-Hyan wanted to argue, but he was too tired. They had survived. That was enough for now. He set the autopilot on their new course, hoping the jury-rigged navigation system would hold for 2 more days as he stood up to go rest. He noticed Lyris looking at the cargo bay door with an odd expression. Just for a moment. Then it was gone. He told himself he was imagining things. But he could not shake a small feeling of doubt that had started, growing in his mind. What exactly was he carrying into Veltari space? They dropped out of hyperspace 6 hours from Veltar Prime. Dae-Hyan had barely slept for 2 days, constantly checking the makeshift navigation system. It had held together somehow. Just like Lyris said, humans were stubborn that way. Veltar Prime appeared on the view screen like a blue and purple jewel. The planet was beautiful, covered in swirling clouds that glowed softly even in the darkness of space. 3 moons orbited in perfect harmony, and Dae-Hyan could see massive orbital stations hanging like silver necklaces around the planet. It is beautiful, he said. It is home, Lyris replied quietly. She stood beside him, staring at the planet with an expression that mixed joy and sadness. I did not know if I would ever see it again. The comm system beeped. Daehyun opened the channel, expecting traffic control. Instead, a harsh voice filled the cockpit. Unidentified human vessel, this is Veltari Defense Patrol 7. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. You are carrying a fugitive wanted for crimes against the Convergence. Daehyun and Lyris exchanged looks. How did they know? Daehyun asked. They have been tracking us, Lyris said. They must have traced our hyperspace signature from Sol Station. She gripped the edge of the control panel. Can we run? Daehyun checked his sensors. 3 Veltari patrol ships were closing in. They were fast, heavily armed, and his ship was barely holding together after the jury-rigged repairs. No, we cannot outrun them. Not in this condition. Then what do we do? Daehyun thought fast. We get to the planet. To your home. That is still the mission, right? You have evidence there? Yes, but then we go down, fast. Daehyun's hands moved across the controls. I hope your people do not shoot civilian ships in atmosphere. They should not, but Daehyun did not wait for her to finish. He pointed the ship at the planet and fired every thruster. The wandering star dove toward Veltar Prime like a falling stone. Are you insane? Lyris shouted over the roar of the engines. You will burn us up on entry. Probably. Daehyun shouted back. He was watching the heat shield's temperature gauges climb into the red zone. Tell me where your home is. Eastern continent. Northern region. Near the crystal forests. Lyris was gripping her seat so hard her knuckles turned white. Well, whiter. Her skin was already pale. The patrol ships were following but falling behind. They could not match his reckless speed. Daehyun grinned despite the terror. Sometimes being crazy was the same as being brave. The atmosphere hit them like a hammer. The ship shook violently. Metal groaned. Warning alarm screamed. Daehyun fought the controls, trying to keep them from tumbling into a death spiral. Outside the view screen, the hull glowed orange, then red, then white hot. Daehyun could smell something burning. He did not want to know what. There. Lyris pointed at the view screen. Through the plasma glow, Daehyun could see crystalline structures rising from purple forests. That is the region. He angled the ship toward the forests and cut the engines. They were still moving too fast, but he could not risk slowing down more. The patrol ships would catch them. The crystal forests rushed up to meet them. Daehyun fired the retro thrusters at the last possible second. The wandering star screamed in protest, but she slowed. Barely enough. They clipped the top of a crystal tree, sending shards flying. Then another. Then they hit the ground hard, skidding through purple grass and leaving a long trench behind them. Everything went still. Daehyun sat in the pilot chair, breathing hard. He was alive. Somehow, he was alive. I'm never doing that again, he muttered. We need to move, Lyris said. She was already unstrapping from her seat. The patrol ships will land soon. My home is 3 kilometers east. Can you walk? Daehyun checked himself. Everything hurt, but nothing seemed broken. I can walk. They grabbed what they could carry and abandoned the ship. Daehyun felt a pang of sadness looking at the wandering star. She had gotten them here, but she would never fly again. The landing had destroyed the engines and probably cracked the hull in a dozen places. The crystal forest was unlike anything Daehyun had ever seen. The trees were made of some kind of living crystal that chimed softly in the wind. The grass beneath his feet was purple and soft, almost like walking on carpet. The air smelled sweet, like flowers and rain. This way, Lyris said, leading him between the crystal trees. They ran as fast as they could. Behind them, Daehyun could hear the patrol ships landing. Shouts in the Veltari language echoed through the forest. They were being hunted. After 20 minutes of running, they broke through the tree line. Daehyun stopped and stared. Lyris's home was incredible. It looked like it had been grown rather than built, made from the same crystal as the forest trees but shaped into elegant towers and flowing walls. Windows glowed with soft light. Water flowed through channels in the structure, creating a musical sound. "Quick," Lyra said, running to the entrance. The door opened at her touch, responding to her biometrics. They rushed inside, and the door sealed behind them with a soft hum. Inside was even more beautiful. The walls seemed to glow from within. Furniture grew from the floor as if it were part of the building itself. Everything was elegant, clean, and completely alien to Daehyun's human eyes. "Your evidence," Daehyun said, catching his breath. "Where is it?" "In my research lab below." Lyris moved to a panel on the wall and pressed her hand against it. A section of the floor slid open, revealing stairs going down. "Come on." They descended into a large underground room filled with computer systems and storage units. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing complex genetic sequences and star maps. Lyris went straight to the main computer and began typing rapidly. "This is everything," she said. 20 years of research. Proof of what the convergence has been doing. Genetic samples from species they claimed died naturally but were actually eliminated. Communication intercepts. Financial records showing the manipulation. Daehyun walked around the lab looking at the displays. He saw DNA helixes he did not recognize. Images of alien species. Graphs showing population declines that matched suspiciously with Valtari contact dates. "This is all real?" he asked. "Every bit of it." Lyris pulled up more files. "I was careful. I've verified everything multiple times. The Valtari have been consolidating power for 3 centuries, eliminating any species that might become a threat. And humans?" Lyris looked at him. "Humans are on the list. Your species has only been in space for a few decades, but you are already spreading faster than any species in recorded history. The convergence sees you as a future threat." Daehyun felt cold despite the warm air in the lab. "How future?" "They plan to start the manipulation within the next 10 years. Trade agreements that will seem beneficial but will trap Earth in debt. Technology transfers that will make humans dependent on Valtari systems. Support for extremist groups to cause internal conflicts. We need to get this information to Earth," Daehyun said. "That is why you are here." Lyris opened another panel. "I cannot just send this information. The convergence monitors all transmissions. They would intercept and destroy it. But if I upload it to the galactic network through a back door I discovered, it will spread before they can stop it." "The problem is ... What? What?" "The upload will take 4 hours. And it requires constant attention to bypass security protocols. The convergence will detect the upload after a few minutes and trace it here." Lyris looked at him seriously. "They will come for us. With everything they have." Before Daehyun could respond, the floor above them shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another shake, harder this time. "They are already here," Lyris whispered. Daehyun ran to a wall display that showed the outside. Valtari security forces surrounded the building. Not just patrol ships. Heavy assault vehicles. Soldiers in full combat armor. Energy shields were being set up around the perimeter. "How many?" Lyris asked. "Too many." Daehyun counted at least 40 soldiers. "Maybe more." "Can you start the upload?" "Yes, but..." "Then do it." Daehyun headed for the stairs. "I will figure something out." "Daehyun, wait!" Lyris grabbed his arm. "You cannot fight all of them." "No one can. I am not going to fight them." Daehyun smiled grimly. "I'm just going to annoy them long enough for your upload to finish. That is suicide." "Maybe, but you hired me to get you home and to protect your evidence. I'm not a quitter, remember? Humans are stubborn that way." He pulled his arm free gently. "Start the upload. I will buy you time." Lyris stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded and turned to her computer. 4 hours, she said quietly. "The upload needs 4 hours." "Then you will have 4 hours," Daehyun said. Though he had no idea how he would manage it, he climbed the stairs back to the main level of the house. Through the windows, he could see the security forces setting up siege equipment. They were being thorough, professional. They were not taking chances. Daehyun looked around the beautiful alien home. At the flowing water features. At the elegant lighting systems. At the advanced technology integrated into every surface. Then he smiled. Maybe he could not fight 40 armed soldiers. But he was an engineer. He was a pilot who had kept a dying ship flying through impossible situations. He was a human who had learned that sometimes the best solution was not the obvious one. If they wanted to take this place, he would make them earn every meter. He walked to the environmental control panel and started typing. If Lyris wanted 4 hours. Deihayan had 30 minutes before the Veltari forces made their first move. He used every second. The estate's environmental systems were designed for comfort and beauty, not combat. But Deihayan had spent years keeping broken machines running in ways their designers never imagined. Every system could be a weapon if you were creative enough and desperate enough. He started with the water features. The elegant channels that flowed through the house were connected to a central reservoir with powerful pumps. Deihayan rewrote the controls and overrode the safety limits. With a few commands, he could turn decorative streams into high-pressure water jets. Not deadly, but enough to knock soldiers off their feet and ruin their electronic equipment. Next were the lights. The crystalline walls conducted and amplified light in beautiful patterns. Deihayan found the control systems and started writing new code. He could overcharge the lighting arrays to create blinding flashes. It would burn out the lights permanently, but he only needed them to last a few hours. The climate control gave him more options. He could flood rooms with steam, drop temperatures to freezing, or fill areas with the estate's fire suppression foam. Each trick would only work once before the Veltari adapted. But each trick bought more time. In the kitchen, he found the matter fabricator that Lyris used to prepare food. It was not designed for making weapons, but Deihayan had learned chemistry in university before he dropped out. He programmed it to create compounds that would become smoke bombs and irritants. Not sophisticated, but effective. 20 minutes gone. He heard movement outside. The Veltari were getting into position. Deihayan ran back to the environmental panel and pulled up the estate's audio system. He connected his tablet and loaded a file he had kept from Earth, traditional Korean war drums, recorded at a festival years ago. He set them to play at maximum volume through external speakers, then he added something else. Voice recordings of himself shouting orders in Korean. Commands to imaginary soldiers. Reports of weapons being armed. He mixed it with the sound of running feet, doors slamming, and mechanical noises. He wanted the Veltari to think there were more defenders inside. 15 minutes. He checked the security displays. The soldiers were wearing sealed combat suits with integrated electronics. Good armor, expensive, that gave him an idea. The estate's communications array was on the roof. Deihayan accessed it and started broadcasting on every frequency he could generate. Random noise, feedback loops, anything to jam their communications and sensors. It would not last long, but confusion was a weapon. 10 minutes. Deihayan went down to check on Lyris. She was in the lab, her hands moving rapidly across holographic displays. Lines of code scrolled past faster than he could read. How is it going? He asked. The upload started. 3 hours and 42 minutes remaining. Lyris did not look away from her work. They are trying to trace the connection already. Can they stop it? Not if I keep adjusting the routing. But it requires my full attention. She glanced at him. What are you doing up there? Getting creative? Deihayan smiled. Humans are good at that. He returned upstairs just as the voice outside spoke again. Your time is up. We are coming in. Surrender now, and you will not be harmed. Deihayan grabbed the COM panel. This is Captain Deihayan Park of the Earth Transport Authority. You are attempting to breach a diplomatic residence. The Earth government will consider this an act of war. It was a complete lie. The estate was not a diplomatic residence, and Deihayan was just a cargo pilot. But it might make them hesitate. Silence outside. Then, we have no record of any diplomatic status for this location. Then contact your superiors before you start an interstellar incident, Deihayan replied. He was buying seconds now, not minutes. We are authorized to use necessary force. Stand down. Deihayan cut the COM channel. He took a deep breath. This was it. The first breach team hit the front entrance with a battering ram. Daehyun triggered the water system. High-pressure jets erupted from the walls, slamming into the soldiers. They went down in a tangle of armored limbs and sparking electronics. Their suits were waterproof, but the pressure was like being hit by a fire hose. "Fall back!" someone shouted outside. Daehyun smiled. One attack stopped. The drums were still playing outside, echoing through the crystal forest. He added more sounds to the mix. Weapon charging noises. The roar of engines. The Veltari regrouped quickly. They hit 3 entry points simultaneously. Daehyun triggered the lights, and the entire front section of the estate became a strobe of blinding intensity. The soldiers' helmet visors automatically darkened, but it slowed them down. He released the fire suppression foam in the entrance hall. The white foam expanded rapidly, filling the space and making it impossible to see or move easily. The soldiers pushed through anyway. Determined, Daehyun retreated to the second floor, sealing doors behind him with emergency locks. The doors would not hold for long, but every delay mattered. 2 hours left on the upload. A soldier made it through and came at him. Daehyun grabbed a decorative crystal sculpture and threw it. The soldier dodged easily, but it bought Daehyun time to reach the next room. He triggered the climate control, dropping the temperature to freezing. The soldier slowed, his suit struggling to compensate. More soldiers were breaching now. They had adapted to his tricks. Daehyun kept moving, using the building itself as his weapon. He overloaded a power junction, creating sparks and smoke. He released the automated cleaning drones and reprogrammed them to randomly charge at anything that moved, creating chaos. 1 hour left. Daehyun was exhausted. His makeshift traps were running out. The Veltari had secured the first floor and were advancing to the second. He could hear them communicating, though his jamming made it difficult for them. He fell back to the third floor. A soldier caught him in a corridor. They were face to face. The soldier raised a weapon. Daehyun grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher and sprayed it directly at the soldier's helmet visor. The foam covered the transparent surface, blinding the soldier temporarily. Daehyun ran past him and sealed another door. 30 minutes. A window exploded inward. Soldiers were rappelling down from a hovering aircraft. Daehyun triggered his last lighting trap. The overcharged crystals exploded in a shower of light and sound. The repelling soldiers lost their grip and fell. Not far, maybe 3 meters, but enough to slow them down. Daehyun checked the security display. The basement entrance. They had found it. A team was heading down toward Lyris. "No," Daehyun muttered. He ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. A soldier stepped out in front of him. This one was ready. The weapon came up fast. Daehyun could not dodge. Could not run. The weapon fired. Pain exploded in his shoulder. He went down hard, his vision blurring. The soldier advanced, weapon trained on him. "Stay down," the soldier ordered. Daehyun looked at his shoulder. Blood was spreading across his shirt. The shot had gone clean through, but it hurt worse than anything he had ever felt. His arm would not move properly. He could hear more soldiers on the stairs. Going down. Going to stop the upload. 20 minutes left. They would reach Lyris in less than 5. It was over. Except. Daehyun thought about what Lyris had said. Humans are stubborn. They do not give up. They find a way when there is no way. He looked at the soldier standing over him. At the sealed basement door behind the soldier. At the security panel on the wall, Daehyun still had his tablet in his good hand. He had been using it to control the building systems. One hand was enough. He made a decision that would either save Lyris or kill them both. He accessed the estate's main power grid and entered. A command he had prepared earlier but hoped he would not need. Emergency power dump. Every system in the building feeding into a single overload. "What are you doing?" the soldier asked. "Something stupid," Daehyun said. He pressed execute. Every light in the estate flared to maximum brightness. The crystal walls began to vibrate, amplifying the energy. Water boiled in the pipes. The air itself seemed to hum with power. Then it all exploded, not literally but close enough. Circuit breakers blew throughout the building. Power conduits overloaded and sparked. The lights died, plunging everything into darkness. Emergency systems failed. The security doors locked down automatically, including the basement entrance. The soldier's suit electronics flickered and died. The communication jamming equipment fried. Everything electronic in a 100-meter radius simply stopped working, including Dae-Hyen's tablet. The soldier grabbed Dae-Hyen by his wounded shoulder. Dae-Hyen screamed. "What did you do?" The soldier demanded. "Bought time," Dae-Hyen gasped through the pain dot in the basement. Lyris worked in the dark, but her equipment was on separate power. It was shielded. Still running. The upload continued. The Veltari forces outside were in chaos. Their command systems were dead. Their suits were barely functioning. The siege equipment had lost power. Even their vehicles were having problems. 15 minutes left. Dae-Hyen lay on the floor, bleeding, watching the soldier try to manually open the basement door. It would not budge. The locks had engaged when power was cut. "You are dying," the soldier said. "Let us help you." "Not yet," Dae-Hyen said. "Not for 15 more minutes." The soldier looked at him like he was insane. Maybe he was. But he had done it. He had bought Lyris the time she needed. The basement door opened with a grinding sound. Lyris emerged carrying a medical kit, her face determined. The Veltari soldier raised his weapon but did not fire. Something about the situation had changed. The human on the floor had stopped an entire military assault team with nothing but creativity and stubbornness. That deserved a moment of respect. "Let me help him," Lyris said calmly. "He is dying." "You are under arrest," the soldier replied, but his weapon lowered slightly. "Then arrest me after I save his life." Lyris knelt beside Dae-Hyen without waiting for permission. His shoulder was a mess of blood and torn tissue. She opened the medical kit and pulled out alien medical tools. Dae-Hyen's eyes were half closed. "The upload," he whispered, "will finish on its own." 7 minutes left? Lyris pressed a dermal regenerator against his wound. "You gave me enough time." "More than enough." "Good." Dae-Hyen smiled weakly. "Told you. Humans are stubborn." Outside, the Veltari forces were regrouping. Their equipment was slowly coming back online. A commander arrived at the estate entrance, surveying the damage. The place looked like a war zone. Water damage. Burn marks. Blown circuits. And all of it caused by one human dot. The commander spoke into a restored communicator. "Status report. Sir, the human and the fugitive are secured on the 3rd floor. The human requires medical attention. The upload?" A pause. "Still in progress, sir. We cannot stop it. The connection is routed through too many backdoors. If we cut it now, it will trigger automatic distribution across the entire galactic network." The commander's expression darkened. "How long until completion?" 6 minutes, sir. What percentage is already uploaded?" 15%, sir." The commander stood silently for a moment, calculating. 15% was not everything. Much of the research would be lost. Many details would be missing. But it was enough. Enough evidence to raise questions. Enough data to show patterns. Enough truth to begin unraveling the lies. "Let it finish," the commander said quietly. "Sir?" I said, "Let it finish. Pull all teams back from the estate. Provide medical attention to the human. Place the fugitive under house arrest." The commander looked at the damaged building. "And someone find out everything we can about human defensive tactics. This will be studied for years." 4 minutes. Lyris had stopped the bleeding. The regenerator was knitting Dae-Hyen's flesh back together slowly. He would live. He would have a scar, but he would live. "Why did you come back?" Dae-Hyen asked. "You could have ensured the upload. The upload had a 90% chance of success without me. You had a 0% chance of survival without help." Lyris smiled. "Besides, you kept your promise to me. I should keep mine to you." "What promise?" "That you would get me home safely." Lyris looked around. "We are here. We are safe. More or less." Daehyun laughed, then winced at the pain. This is your definition of safe? We are alive. That counts. 3 minutes. The upload continued in the basement, spreading across the galactic network like wildfire. The data was incomplete, but it was enough. It showed the Veltari population manipulation programs. It revealed the economic warfare tactics. It displayed genetic evidence of extinct species that had supposedly died naturally on Earth. Human military analysts received the first fragments of data. They recognized immediately what they were seeing. Trade agreements with the Veltari that Earth had been considering suddenly looked very different. Very dangerous Earth intelligence began sharing the data with other species. Young civilizations just entering the galactic community. Species that had been wondering why their economies always seemed to depend on Veltari. Technology. 2 minutes. On Veltar Prime, government officials were in emergency meetings. The damage was done. They could not stop the information from spreading now. They could only prepare for the consequences. Some officials argued for denial, others for admission and apology. A few suggested that perhaps it was time to change. The old ways had worked for centuries, but maybe the galaxy was different now. Younger species were not as easily manipulated anymore, especially humans. Humans, they were learning, were very difficult to predict or control. One human pilot had just proven that 1 minute Lyris's communicator buzzed. She checked it and smiled. The upload is complete. All of it. 100%. All of it? Daehyun asked. I thought you said I lied. To protect you. If you knew the upload would finish automatically, you might have done something even more foolish than what you already did. I needed you to survive. Lyris helped him sit up carefully. The truth is spreading across the galaxy now. Every species will see it. Know it. The Veltari convergence can never hide it again. Footsteps on the stairs. The commander entered with 2 medics. They immediately began treating Daehyun with proper medical equipment. His wound started closing even faster. You are both under arrest, the commander said without emotion. You will be transported to a medical facility and then to a detention center pending trial. What charges? Lyris asked. Treason. Theft of classified information. Unlawful distribution of state secrets. Resisting arrest. Property damage. The commander looked at Daehyun. And for you, human, we are adding assault on military personnel, terrorism, and illegal entry to Veltar Prime. That should look great on my pilot license, Daehyun muttered. 3 months later, the galactic community was still reeling from Lyris's revelations. The Veltari convergence's reputation had collapsed overnight. Trade agreements were being renegotiated. Species that had been dependent on Veltari technology were forming alliances to develop alternatives. Earth had become the unexpected leader of a new coalition. 12 younger species had signed a mutual defense pact, with Earth providing military coordination and industrial support. They called themselves the Free People's Alliance. The older, established species were not sure how to respond. Daehyun stood on a balcony in New Seoul, looking out at the city lights. His shoulders still ached sometimes, but the alien medicine had worked well. He barely had a scar. He was wearing a new uniform. Not military, exactly, but official. The Earth government had offered him a position as a liaison officer to the Free People's Alliance. Apparently, his unconventional thinking and refusal to give up had made him something of a legend. He had turned it down. Instead, he was opening a new business, a shipping company that would transport goods between the Alliance worlds. He had enough money now. The Earth government had paid him a substantial reward for his role in exposing the Veltari conspiracy. Several other governments had contributed too. The door behind him opened. Lyris stepped out onto the balcony. She was wearing simple human clothes now. Having been granted political asylum on Earth, the Veltari government had tried to extradite her for trial, but Earth had refused. So had 11 other Alliance worlds? I thought you might be here, Lyris said. Couldn't sleep, Daehyun replied. Too much happening. Too fast. That is the human way, is it not? Everything fast. Everything moving forward. Lyris joined him at the railing. My people used to think that was a weakness. We preferred patience. Long-term planning? And now? Now, I think maybe both have their place. Your speed and our patience. Your creativity and our knowledge. Working together instead of one species dominating the others. Dehai nodded. I hear you are working with human scientists now. Yes, we are trying to restore some of the extinct species from my genetic archives. It is slow work, but we have had some successes. 2 Earth species have been brought back already. A frog and a butterfly. Lyris smiled. Small things, but important. Life returning where it was lost. That's good. Really good? Daehyun looked at her. What about your home? Veltar Prime? Do you miss it? Every day, but I cannot go back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Lyris's expression was sad but accepting. The convergence has fallen, but my people are divided now. Some want reform. Others want to return to the old ways. It will take time to heal. You could have stayed. Avoided all this trouble. Just kept your research hidden and lived quietly. I could have. But then I would have been complicit in the lies. Sometimes the right choice is the hardest one. Lyris turned to him. You taught me that? You risked everything for someone you barely knew, based on nothing but a promise and a belief that I was telling the truth. I'm still not sure that was smart. It was not smart. It was human. Lyris laughed. That seems to be the defining characteristic of your species. You do impossible things because you do not realize they are impossible. Daehyun's communicator buzzed. He checked it and grinned. My new ship just arrived at the orbital dock. Want to see it? You got another ship already? A good one this time. Actually new? With working systems and everything? Daehyun started walking toward the door. I named it after the old one. The Wandering Star 2. Not very creative, but it felt right. Where will you go first? The Pelter system. They need medical supplies, and the Veltari trade blockade is still in effect there. Someone has to break it. Daehyun paused at the door. I could use a co-pilot. Someone who knows the old trade routes. Someone who speaks a dozen languages. Someone who is good at fixing things. Lyris smiled. Are you offering me a job, Captain Park? I am offering you a home. A moving one, admittedly. But you said you could not go back to Veltar Prime, so maybe it is time to move forward instead.